Hello, I'm Don Moores, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. The terrible mass shooting in Florida on Valentine's Day has perhaps changed the discussion of guns, as students around the country are demanding change. Andrew Feinberg, an editor with the Sentinel newspaper, has this story.
Thank you.
Childhood obesity is an ever-increasing problem in our community, as well as throughout the country, with rates of the disease higher in low-income neighborhoods. KellyAnn Rooney from CCI Health and Wellness Services is here to enlighten us about this serious challenge. Casa provides many services, one of the most famous organizations in our counties that works with immigrants and others throughout our community and throughout the Mid-Atlantic area. Fernanda Durand from Casa, Communications Director at Casa, will tell us more about what the organization does and what it's hoping to do in the coming years. Montgomery Community Media, this very station where this show is being beamed from, received a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts to sponsor activities surrounding the Big Read Montgomery County. Denise Fredericks, Philanthropy Manager here at MCM, is here to explain. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you.
So, the Sentinel, I got to throw out to you just a kudo, and the Capitol Office, Brian Karam, and everyone else, your work. What a wonderful newspaper. As the last remaining local newspaper, you all do such a terrific job of keeping us informed.
Thank you very much. It's local journalism is more important than ever. It's always important, but a lot of the attention today is going to national outlets, and left in the lurch and left out is local journalism, and all the local journalists who are covering city halls, right, and state houses and all of those local and state governments
where people are impacted.
Right,
we can talk about the big pictures
closest to the people, and
right,
when you don't have people who are informed about what's going on in their own communities, because all the oxygen is getting sucked up by the White House and Congress, you don't have an informed citizenry at the most important level.
Well, and at the level where citizens can have the biggest impact.
Absolutely.
You can talk about the White House and Congress and everything else, but it's at that city hall level, it's at the county level and local towns. Let's talk about an issue that's impacted Montgomery County, and you deal with the nation as well as the county and state and every place else. But yeah, on my way to work on Wednesday, hundreds of students were walking down from Blair 2 miles, Colesville Road, to get to the Silver Spring Metro, rising up because of the school shooting in Florida. Tell us about what's happened in the aftermath and whether we can expect to see some real change.
Well, what you have that's different, that hasn't happened before, is that these students, and it started in Florida, where the students who had gotten out of the shooting, who had survived the shooting, immediately began speaking out.
They were mad, weren't they?
They are mad.
Right.
They continue to be mad, and they want to be heard. And what's disgusting is you have a lot of people on the right who have been smearing them as being plants or being coached or being quote unquote crisis actors.
Right.
When these kids, they have friends that lost their lives. They nearly lost their lives, many of them. And to quote the movie Network, they're mad as hell.
Right, and they won't take it. And so how within the county and the state? I mean, we're pretty good on these issues, I think. What does it mean, do you think, that to see these students in the political dialogue right now?
Well, you're right that Maryland is ahead of the curve. After the Sandy Hook massacre in 2012, Maryland passed an assault weapons ban that prohibits some of the same weapons that the expired federal assault weapons ban did, including the AR-15 that has been used in mass shooting after mass shooting. So, that's not as much of a problem here in Maryland, but, across the country, students are, walking out of class, they're speaking up, and, it's really hard to ignore them. And of course, as I said, you have people who are trying to, dismiss them and to smear them, but the difference is that before, mostly adults were talking, and you didn't hear from the kids. You heard from grieving parents.
And
Right.
I think it goes to this young generation. You saw it in the DACA kids, the dreamers.
Yeah.
They were out there speaking with their elected officials. They were going out there and talking about what they needed to see change.
They brought it to a human level.
Yes, they
think,
totally
did.
What do you think about that? I mean, talk about
Right.
that, because these were their kids, the other kids in class on DACA. These are the other kids. You know, every kid is. Shouldn't you be in a school and be safe?
Right, and I mean, what's interesting is the similarity between the DACA issue and the gun issue is both have a wide range of support. The polling numbers on both are very, very high, and a lot of that with DACA is thanks to those young people. Because when you bring the issue down to the level where you know someone and you see people as human and not as abstractions, it's really hard
Not
for
as a potential terrorist. That's the kid sitting next to me in class.
But the other
Right.
thing that I was
Yeah.
going to jump in on is that these kids are digital natives, as we older folks refer to it, right? That they have grown up with social media.
stole my next
and
sentence.
Their proficiency
So, Andy, I
with
want you-
being able to do that.
Right, they grew up on the
makes a
internet,
difference.
and
Got
this
about
is
a minute left, by the way.
this is a generation that knows how to mobilize themselves and communicate online. It is their native language. And some of these smears were saying, oh, well, these kids obviously had help from, George Soros, whoever, because their websites are really good and they speak really well and their graphic design is great. They grew up on the internet. What else do you expect?
And they went to a school, it seems, that's a darn good performing school. KellyAnn, did you go to a school like that?
Well, yeah, I like to think
About 30
so.
seconds
Yeah.
left. What more do you have to share with this about where do you see it going?
Well, I don't know if the result will be different. I don't know if anything will happen at the federal level because you have such a base of support on the right that derives from the NRA, but the aftermath of this, the kids speaking up, they're not going away.
They're not going away, and neither will we on this issue. Andrew, thank you, and look forward to hearing more about it as we go on. Thank you. Sure. KellyAnn, welcome.
Thank you.
Like Andrew, this is your first time on the show, so we're very happy to see both of you here. CCI Health and Wellness, I know, what a wonderful, wonderful organization, do so much. I guess the issue of kids of obesity continues to grow, and we're talking about the digital issues. I think it's one of the things that parents talk about is they're on their machine so much they're not out running around outside. But that's only part of the story, isn't it?
It is, yeah. When Andrew was talking, I was thinking about that. There are pluses and minuses to a generation that's grown up in front of the computer screen. I mean, they're very savvy, but it also, for what I'm here to talk about today, it really is a big contributor to why the childhood obesity rate has risen so much over the past decade. And
Lay it out a little bit. What's happened? What do we see now in child obesity?
so just to lay out, I guess, the statistics across all of the country, 1 in 3 kids between the ages of 2 to 19 are overweight or obese. And there's a lot of contributing factors. I don't think we can pin it down to one cause. Screen time is definitely part of it. Physical activity, a decrease in physical activity, which may correlate to more screen time just because they're on the screen more.
And I think also less PE in classes as they're going more and more.
Absolutely,
with,
yep. And that's been one of the big pushes as well, is to get this physical activity more into schools, get better nutrition into schools. But what we're doing at CCI Health and Wellness is trying to get it. Yeah, we're trying to get it into the primary care environment. It's really important for patients to see that their doctors are committed to this, and for patients and families to committed to changing their lifestyle and improving nutrition and physical activity for the whole family.
It's not just the screen time and the lack of PE. You have other issues that contribute to this. Here in Maryland, I believe in Montgomery County, you've had parents who have gotten in trouble with the law and with child services for letting their kids walk home from a park. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I played outside. I rode my bike unsupervised, and we live in a time now, and I don't know where this comes from. We had the milk cartons with the missing kids on them, but even our parents still let us play outside. But now there's an environment where parents are afraid to do that because there's been so much overreach.
Fear of the pervert. But this all adds into what you're facing, and what you all are doing some innovative programs that you're directing. So tell us real quick about it, about these
Yeah,
programs,
absolutely.
about
I
these
mean,
efforts.
all of these things definitely play into what we're trying to address. We have 3 different interventions that we're hoping to use, that we're hoping to offer to families. First is just implementing a nutritionist right there into the primary care environment, so
Right.
they can go see their provider, who they love and trust, and the nutritionist can come right into that visit and start
More
to set
kale.
goals with them. Yeah, essentially. And we also have 2 other partners that we're working with. The first is University of Maryland's expanded food and nutrition program.
Okay.
They're able to offer free nutrition and physical activity classes to our patients. And the third is a DC-based nonprofit. They're called ParkRx, and essentially they build up the formularies. They call them Park formularies in Montgomery and Prince George's County. And the providers are able to go in right there in our electronic medical record and prescribe Parks to patients.
You know what I was thinking of? You said nutritionist, and it occurred to me that maybe the better way to do this in the family environment is to, when you talk about nutrition, to have an entire family
Right.
do nutrition. How do you go about doing that in a family setting like
Right.
mine?
No, absolutely. It's definitely something to think about. And I think the way that we're hoping to phrase this to patients is that it is a family-based intervention. You know, the kids don't develop good habits unless their parents or their caregivers are showing them the habits to develop. So what we have is the patients coming in with their mom or their dad or whoever, their grandparents, who are the ones that are cooking for them and who are the ones that are buying school lunches for them, and just helping them to set goals, small, measurable goals that they can do in their everyday lives to improve nutrition.
Speaking of school lunches, though, what are you guys doing, if anything, about the rollback in Obama-era regulations that sought to improve the quality of school lunches? That was one of the first things the Trump administration did in the opening days, was go back to, I don't know if this is specific, but the whole ketchup as a vegetable thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think,
About a minute left.
although we're not focused specifically in schools, I think what we can do from our perspective is really just teach the patients when they're given these 2 choices between, say, French fries and apple slices, and maybe they're not even offering that in school, but just teaching them the correct nutrition things to decide upon. And
It's kind of hard when you have a 6-year-old to tell them, no, you should eat some broccoli instead of
yeah,
French fries.
yeah, absolutely. So just getting the kids
I don't
in
think she
and
said
getting
broccoli.
the
She
face
said
time.
apple.
Yeah, yeah, it's easier to convince them to eat the
much sugar
fruits, but
anyway.
yeah.
Is 15 seconds left. Ethnic, cultural issues in the obesity, or is it just it's striking every community?
I mean, it is striking every community, but I think racial and ethnic minorities are definitely disproportionately affected, and that's the patient population that we serve at CCI, and it's definitely what we're focusing on the most.
Like with Andrew, we look forward to having you come back and telling
Thank
us
you very
more
much.
about how this is going.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. Fernanda, welcome.
Thank you.
The communications director
Yes.
for Casa. What a great organization. Please give Gustavo our regards from the show. And I'm a big Gustavo fan.
great leader,
He
yeah.
really is. So
Or-
tell us about what's Casa, where we are in Casa right now, and where's Casa going with the challenges that seem to you all keep. I mean, Casa does such a great job of helping the community focus that these are not other people's. These are our community's issues.
Yes. Well, as you know, we started in a small little church basement in Montgomery County, and we've grown now to 3 states. We're in Virginia, Pennsylvania, and of course here in Maryland, and we have another office in Baltimore.
Whoa! Let's stop there.
Yeah.
But as importantly, I think you all, by your proximity to DC, you've been the voice, you've been the leader for national efforts as
Of
well. So
course.
I don't want to downplay. I mean, you're so much
No.
larger than 3 states.
No, of course, but we believe in working all levels of government. So we're not just working at the local level, at the neighborhood level, state, but at the federal level as well. And we've been taking part, of course, in all this movement that's been going on with DACA and everything that's been going on there, but also working now in the state, trying to get increased rights for the Dreamers here in Maryland. So we're working in Annapolis as well. So we just do a lot of services. We served actually 20,000 people last year
Yeah.
through our services. people who have become members, and they come to us for health services, they come to us for legal services, all types of things where in other states, in other countries, an immigrant population would never have access to that.
You mentioned one word, and I know a lot of people have questions here, but the question, members.
Yeah.
Membership is a key part of this. So tell us about the members. They're not clients, they're not customers. These are members of Casa, so that you're serving. How does that work?
Well, we believe that we should have inclusion. These members are at the top of our organization. They make up our organization. It's not the staff, it's not the allies, it's the members. And a lot of times we take our cues from them. What do you want us to focus on? Do you want us to focus on going to DC and fighting for the DREAM Act, or do you want us to fight here in Annapolis? Mm-hmm. So we're taking our cues from them, and we are giving them a voice. That's what's important, and that's what's very unique in our organization. We are the largest member immigrants' rights organization in the country, and I think we're so successful because of that.
And that membership is a key part.
Yeah,
it's not just
exactly.
clients. Is there a specific story that you have that kind of tells the Casa story right now?
Well, sure. Obviously, the DACA issue is huge right now. I work with 3 wonderful dreamers who've grown up in this area, and they've become involved as staff members in our organization, and they are leaders in the movement. And I look up to them because they're so brave, just like these kids in Florida. They are so brave, and they speak up, and I'm just in awe of them. It's just amazing, and that's why we are all fighting. We're all fighting for them. They should be able to remain in this country. They and their families should be able to remain in this country and just have a shot at the American dream.
And they've been our neighbors
Yes.
as long as my kids have been growing up. And as long as we've been here. Speaking of neighbors, I'm really concerned about gentrification and housing displacement. I think you're working in that area. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, our community development department is working on this, trying to include our members, our community in the plans that are going on around the Purple Line. I mean, we don't just want to get these people kicked out of the neighborhoods. They've lived here. They lived here for years. So they are an important part of this organization and of all the development going forward.
But about a minute left.
It's important, though, to make sure that inclusionary housing policies don't end up being exclusionary. I walked by a new condo development in downtown Bethesda the other day that had pour doors. And so much of that comes from Annapolis.
What's a pour door?
A pour door is when you have a apartment building, often luxury apartment building, that has affordable housing required to be built in, but the residents in those affordable units have their own entrances. Wow. They're not allowed to use building amenities.
Right, or they're not allowed to use the gyms.
Right.
That's what
Of course,
right.
That shouldn't happen in this county. That should not happen. We are all contributing members in one way or another. We contribute hugely to this community.
Right. Well, it comes from Annapolis,
yes,
that policy.
it should not be happening here.
There's so much more we can talk about, and I look forward to having you come back.
Definitely.
Casa is good, and Casa will continue to do good, right?
Yes, we sure will, and we are working at all levels of government and community. So we're trying to help everybody out here.
Fernanda, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Promise you'll come back?
Yes, definitely.
Perfect, thank you. Denise,
Good morning.
we're on your home turf here.
Yes.
Director of Philanthropy. This is good, or Manager of Philanthropy. The Big Read. Big Read Montgomery. I know you're proud, the first of its kind
Very
to get it
exciting.
here, and I have read the Big Read book. If we all read that book, I think of the immigrant experiences we're coming in, and Casa is so much more than immigrants reaching out to the entire community. But within this, we talk about DACA. This was what an amazing story this book is.
The Big Read overall is a program of the National Endowment for the Arts, and in partnership with Arts Midwest. And it brings the community together over sharing a good book. But bigger than that, here in Montgomery County, we wanted to make our Big Read Montgomery something that was very special to who we are as a county, in which a third of our residents are foreign born. and many of the children going to schools speak a language other than English at home. So we are a mosaic of Montgomery, and we want to make sure that we are celebrating that immigrant experience. So we picked this book as a team that is me and my wonderful partners, the Montgomery County Public Libraries, Friends of the Library in Montgomery County, and we're also working with the Gaithersburg Book Festival.
What's the book?
The book is The Beautiful Things That Heaven Bears by MacArthur Fellow D. Nauman Gestu. And I am so excited because this is the big reveal. He will be our guest speaker at our closing event on June 9th. So stay tuned, look up, follow us everywhere, and you'll find out all the amazing activities that we're doing around Big Read.
Are you offering this also in other languages, Spanish and other languages?
The book is available in other languages. We are very definitely looking to have speakers and community groups. We are having a community partner who is going to be doing work with us to do a genuine Ethiopian coffee ceremony, so you can see what that looks like.
Good.
But the big thing that we want to talk about too is we're looking to collect these stories of our immigrant family members from around the community through our oral history project. We would like to do video oral histories and get those submitted. So we're going to be looking for cultural ambassadors that are going to reach out and encourage people to participate in that way.
Perfect.
So Baltimore is known widely as the city that reads. Do you think we can get Montgomery County to be known as the county that reads?
Oh, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? My library friends would be so happy. Speaking of that, you can get the book at the library. You can pick the book up at Friends of the Library in Montgomery County. They're selling that as well. But get involved, read the book, and if for some reason reading isn't your big thing, participate in the activities anyway. Join an oral history project. Make sure that that those stories get told and collected.
Get an audiobook.
Get an audiobook.
Well, one of the things about this book, and just come in, is that so many of the issues we've been talking about are in there. Nutrition is in there, and foods, because there's a store that plays a central role. Gentrification, and an immigrant in there, though it's there. The immigrant experience, someone who immigrated from Ethiopia to Montgomery County, to Silver Spring, family still here. The DC metropolitan area as a whole. I mean, it was a genius effort to have this, and it speaks to across every community. And so I was just enraptured.
I think one of the things that I found really special about parts of the book was that idea of people who are longtime residents, because we just talked about gentrification, people who are longtime residents, and they sometimes feel uncomfortable looking around at a neighborhood that no longer looks like the neighborhood that, for example, they grew up in. And that's a challenge that we all have, and it's brought out in the book in that kind of conversational way to recognize.
Well, I think also the thing that I'm sure that you see, Fernanda, at Casa, and we see throughout, is that immigrants don't leave 100% of their lives behind. They're folks with feet in two worlds, and that struggle, that internal and external struggle of expectations on all fronts, is dealt with in this as well. Unfortunately, we have about 30 seconds left.
And many kids, I mean, myself included, you have to speak perfect English and perfect Spanish. That's just an example of this dual sort of thing going on, where you're trying to be in two cultures at once.
And the story is rooted in an escape from a revolution. So it was danger and it was trauma, and all of those things are true of many of the folks that come from other places that are here too.
It plays into a lot of what's going on in the country. Sort of the defining question is, what does it mean to be an American?
Well, that's where we'll have to end. And what's our responsibility as America with people who are fleeing violence and horrors, as Mengistu is. You all, this has been fascinating. I want to thank you all, and all of you the first time on the show, which is just even better. And I want to thank all of you for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Mooers, and I'm inviting you to join us next week at this very same time.